Let's just rewind a couple of hours from that wild campsite to have a chat about the route that I'm taking today. I've parked my vehicle just at the corner of that wood line, a feature that you can see there. That's where I'm parked, and I'm heading, you can't actually see where I'm heading, I can't actually see where I'm heading, but if you look at the tallest peak in the far distance, in and around the base of that is a lake called Ffynnon Llyfant. I know I've absolutely tortured the pronunciation of that, so apologies any Welsh speakers watching Ffynnon Llyfant. The reason that I'm going there this evening is because it is the highest lake, not only in Snowdonia, but in the whole of Wales, at 815 metres altitude, which is a shade under 3,000 feet. So last week when I was out with Finley, we went to the deepest lake in North Wales. Now I'm heading to the highest lake in the whole of Wales. So join me if there's anything of interest en route. I'll share it with you. I also want to share with you, before we get to that wild campsite, I do want to share with you some navigation considerations I'll be making later on the journey, but I'll share those with you en route. Keep watching. Time for a breather. I'm just over halfway, so I'm starting to mentally kind of think about what attack points and what routes and what strategies I'm going to use for this last third or so of the route to that campsite. And I thought it was a good opportunity to sort of share with you an sort of on-the-ground decision-making, on-the-ground thought process. And the reason being is, I've never been here to this area before. I've been up on the peaks overlooking it, but I've never actually been down on the ground before. So I don't know what it's like on the ground. All I've got to go on is the map and my gut feeling, common sense, insofar that water usually drains downwards. Everywhere I've been in the world, it drains downwards. So lower is likely to be wetter than higher, and the map suggests that as well. So I wanted to have a chat with you about two rules that I'm thinking of breaking. And when I say rules, I'm talking about two commonly held good practices, or two things that you will hear, I've probably said them myself, that I'm starting to think maybe I'm not going to stick to them, maybe I'm going to break them, maybe I'm going to do something different, maybe I won't. Maybe when I get round the corner and see the ground, I'll think, oh, actually I'm going to stick to those principles, those rules. But I'm thinking that maybe I won't, so I thought I'd share them with you. First rule that I'm thinking about bending or breaking is the rule of a straight line is the shortest distance. And it is. There's no arguing about that. A straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points. But as I've said in a previous video, and I'm going to share it up on the screen now, the shortest distance doesn't necessarily mean it is the quickest route. So that's one thing that I've got going on in my head, and I'll share with you why I'm thinking this when I share the map with you in a second. The other thing is, there's a common held belief about don't gain height and then lose the height. In other words, don't go up something to only have to come down the other side of it again. If you can go around the something, if you can contour around it, then do so. So, you know, if something is on the same height as you, try and get to it without having to unnecessarily climb and lose that height again. But having looked at the map, I'm going to share that with you now, this is why I'm thinking about breaking those rules. I'm here on the map. My destination is here. The going so far has been very, very good. I've basically been on this track, this path here. However, when I get to on and around this point, I want to be thinking about making my way over to that lake. Now, if I just go in a straight line, take a bearing, go in a straight line, I'm going to get there. I will get there. But I've got to cross 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potential streams or rivers in order to get there. Now, these could be dried up. These could have really good stepping stones across them. There might be a really well-beaten gravel track that takes me towards them. But at the moment, I don't know. All I've got to go on is that there looks to be a lot of very low-lying, damp ground and streams and riverbeds in this area here. If I was to look at the height of this lake, it's at 815, so I could go to the 815, I could go to around 700, just make my way along, gradually gain height and get there. What I'm thinking of doing is actually climbing a lot higher, maybe to around 860, 870, 88, 90, and then come in, lose height, drop down onto that lake. So yes, I'm going to have some unnecessary climbing, because within 400 or 500 meters I'm going to purposefully lose that height again. But just look at how by going over the top of these streams, I'm not having to cross the streams and potentially get very, very wet feet, which, touch wood, so far have stayed very, very dry for a change. So those are the two rules. I might go the long way around to get to something, not necessarily a straight line distance. But I think more importantly, the point I want to get across is I might actually have to gain height in order to purposefully lose height in order to avoid this low-lying boggy ground here. Hope that makes sense, folks. That's the theory at the moment. Let's see what it looks like when I actually get around this feature that's blocking my view, get level with that lake and see what the ground conditions are like underfoot. That dead ground that you can, I was going to say that dead ground that you can see into, you know what I mean, that dead ground that you can't see into over my shoulder there, that's the area where my overnight camp is going to be. So back to the decision around, do I continue gaining height to move around those streams to lose height again? Actually looking out over this ground here, you may not be able to pick it up, looking out over the ground here and judging on the ground that I've covered coming up here, there are streams, but they're those streams that have got very, very sharp banks. They're not the sort of streams that are almost at ground level. Really steep banks, steep cuttings, very, very, if any little moisture either side of the stream, it's all running quickly off into the stream. So there's no guarantee that's what I'll face over my shoulder when I'm crossing those 6 or 7 streams, but everything I've seen coming up lends itself to thinking that, you know, it's going to be a hop across the stream, a climb up a bank, and then it's going to be dry again. So I'm going to take that option rather than carry on tabbing up this hill behind me, because I'm already hanging out my backside. So I'm going to take the straight line on a bearing option and hop, fingers crossed, with relatively dry feet across those streams. Let's see what it's like when we get there. I've just passed a tiny, tiny little pond on my left, fairly established. It's not just a puddle, it's a small established lake. According to the map, that preempts, or that indicates that the lake I'm looking for is another couple of 100 meters on. Hey, and as I clear this small rise, there it is, home for the night. Wow, very small, but yeah, its claim to fame is it's the highest lake in all of Wales, not just Snowdonia. Looking forward to get to know it better over the course of the rest of today, tonight and tomorrow morning. Join me. Time for some scoff. The last couple of trips out, I've been using Expedition Foods, that very vivid orange branding, freeze dried, dehydrated, water in the bag. Brilliant food, very, very tasty, high in calories, quite expensive, to be perfectly honest, in the whole range of things, but that's, you know, they deliver a good product. This time around, decided to try something different. So I've got a curry here from Tent Foods. Tasty, very, very tasty. 800 calories, no worries there. Slightly cheaper in price, which is no bad thing, right? Very, very compact, really sort of compact bag that it comes in. The downside of that is you can't actually cook it or eat it from the bag it comes in. You need to decant it into something else and add water and heat it up and let it soak and so on and so forth. But, you know, like most things, there's often a trade-off. The slight downside of this curry, and this is no fault of Tent Foods, this is my fault, I was perhaps a little bit too click happy when I saw the price, typical Yorkshireman, because it's got absolutely zero meat in it. It's a veggie curry. And whilst I have no problem with veggies or vegetarian food in general, after what has been quite a long walk in tonight, I really would have liked some protein to snack down on. Let's rephrase it. I really would have liked some meat to snack down on. There's a couple of sheep annoying me over my shoulder, so if they don't shut up before too long, they might be added to the second course of the menu. But all in all, very tasty. It's tasty, and it's packing the calories in, 800 calories in that one mug of curry there. So in terms of being out on the hills, you don't have to choke it down your neck because it's tasty and it's adding the calories. I just wish it had some meat in it. So lesson there, Craig. Lesson learned there, Craig. Do double check that the food that you're buying isn't some sort of weird diet thing. Not that being a veggie is a weird diet thing, before anybody starts commenting. Can't fault it from the taste perspective though. Not bad stuff. Rice pudding with cinnamon. This has got a lot to live up to because I'm a big rice pudding fan. Big rice pudding fan. No less than half a dozen tins in my house at any one time, just in case. Big rice pudding fan. That's okay. That's okay. The reason I'm not turning cartwheels about it is, one, I can't do a cartwheel, and two, if anything, the cinnamon spoilt it a little bit. It's not overpowering, but it's there. And you know, if you ever tasted cinnamon, you can't get away from that taste, can you? It's definitely there. It just seems to overpower it a little bit, which seems to be a bit of a shame. Don't get me wrong, the bag's still going to be empty. Well, that's me all fed and watered. The plan for this evening is I'm going to get my head stuck into this book that I can't even begin to think how long I've had this little book on weather. I pick it up every couple of years, thumb through it, get distracted by something else, and then put it down for another couple of years. But I think, given the amount of time that I'm spending out on the hills and how incredibly important it is to have a very, very good grasp of the weather when you're out on the hills, not just listening to the news, not just looking at the synoptic charts and things like that, but truly having a really good understanding as to what the environment's telling you. I think it's time I dive back into this. I've got 2 or 3 other books that are specifically aimed at hill walkers, but I find that there's a level of assumed knowledge when I start to read those, so I guess I'm starting with the basics here. So that's going to be, I'm in my sleeping bag now, by the way, so that's going to be my reading material. The plan for the rest of the night is for me to get up at some point once it's pitch black, fingers crossed we have a cloud-free night, and do some very cool sort of, aerial shots of stars and the night sky, and maybe get some really nice cool shots of the tent lit up from inside. The ones that I've seen online look brilliant if the conditions are right, and if I remember to wake up or can be bothered to get out of bed in the middle of the night. And the other part of the plan that relies heavily upon me getting out of bed on time is the direction that I'm facing now. So that direction, I should, I should, all things being equal, be able to capture a decent sunrise. However, if you remember a few videos back when I went up Mole Shabbat, the cloud cover, the low-lying cloud cover out in the distance on the horizon didn't want to play ball, but we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely going to read the weather book, and the night photography and the sunrise are very heavily dependent upon me being bothered to get out of my pit. So we'll see how it goes. Stay tuned, because if we don't do any of that, we've still got the breakfast menu to get through in the walk off the hill. So I hope you'll join me over breakfast. See you soon. See you soon. A very good morning to you folks, and what a good morning it is. Let me just swivel around so you can see that sun blazing up over the horizon there. The time is it's only 10 to 6 in the morning. The sun's already making things feel very, very warm. If I just sort of spin all the way around, look at that blue sky. That's 10 to 6 in the morning. That blue sky above me there. We are in, I hope, for a very good day, if not at least a very warm and dry walk off the hill this morning. Last night was fine. It was a good night's sleep. A little broken by the fact I woke up for 4 Ps for some reason during the night, and then I got up to do that kind of that I'm going to use the phrase loosely, astrophotography. I basically just set the GoPro on the ground pointing upwards and set it to time lapse, and then went back to bed for 20 minutes. So I'm not entirely sure I was overly committed to the astrophotography. And then again this morning I just stuck my head out the tent and did exactly the same and pointed the GoPro in the general direction of sunrise. But I like to think I was making some effort at the sunrise photography and the astrophotography. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed seeing them. I have scrambled egg with cheese and caramelised onion sat waiting for me just behind me. You might be able to hear the burner boiling away there, boiling the water. So I'm going to get that down my neck, start taking the camp down. But before I leave, I do want to show you around this particular site. There's something that I was aware of here, but I wasn't aware that it was here. I was just aware that it was in this particular mountain range, and as luck happens upon it, it actually happens to be at this site. So please do stay tuned. It's quite important, it's quite poignant, so I want to share that with you all before I walk off the hill this morning. Let's see what that scrambled egg tastes like. Scrambled egg with cheese and caramelised onion, 800 calories. From the Expedition food range. I mentioned it last night, same place that I had my rice pudding with cinnamon. It's okay. It's okay. It's yeah. I'll say it again. It's okay. I'm not raving about it, am I? I'll finish this, but I'll probably not buy it as a breakfast option again, if I'm honest. I can't put my finger on what it is I don't like about it. Strange, just not to my taste. Not to my taste, but not so off that I'm gonna bury it under a rock somewhere. Must look for something else from their breakfast range. That's the porridge that I've tried that I didn't enjoy. Although I must admit, I was faffing around, wasn't I, trying to get a time-lapse shot on it, and it went lukewarm. But this is hot. This has been eaten right at the point it should be. I can't blame it cooling down on the lack of appeal to me this morning. So I'm going to carry on grinding this down. I think when I get home I'm going to look for some alternative options from Exped Foods or from others for freeze-dried rations for breakfast. If you've got a particular favourite, if there's something that you like, let me know in the comments below. What's the brand and what's the actual food menu type itself? If you've got a link, even better, post that below. Sometimes links get held up by YouTube's spam filter, but I keep checking it every couple of days and release anything that's a decent link and not some spam. So if you've got a link, feel free to share it. If you just want to guide me towards what a decent breakfast food range is that's free dried, I want to keep the weight down, not wet rations, then that'd be appreciated. Cheers. If you enjoy watching this video, or indeed my channel more generally, then feel free to hit the buy me a coffee / hot chocolate link in the YouTube description below. It'd be really appreciated. Cheers. That high ground that you're seeing above me is just a very small part of a very, very high, very expansive mountain plateau, I guess you'd call it, called the Carnathai in the northern part of Snowdonia. I know from reading blogs and watching videos and doing a little bit of history research into the history of the area, that it over the years has become something of a graveyard for aircraft. Aircraft in bad weather conditions, poor visibility, human error, whatever, leading to, you know, many aircraft kind of coming a cropper in these here hills. So I knew that in the general area that I was going to be in today, that, you know, there'd been very sadly loss of life and loss of aircraft. What I hadn't been aware of until I got here is actually the fact that if I just move this camera around, if you look over my shoulder there, this particular lake that I'm at is quite renowned for it, and I'm going to take you over there very shortly and show you some of the wreckage and the small memorial that's been inscribed into a piece of that wreckage. I mentioned just a second ago, didn't I, that you know, it's regarded as something of a graveyard. In fact, I'm led to believe that the RAF mountain rescue teams kind of call this area, they nickname it the graveyard, because the amount of aircraft losses that there have been over the years. To the best of my knowledge, and fingers crossed long may it continue, there have been none in recent years. I guess as you know, I guess as technology has improved, as has the ability to miss things like this in poor weather, bad visibility and clag. But you know, sad to think that you know, in the not too distant past, when you read the inscription, certainly in some people's living memory, you know, people were coming a cropper in these hills, not through climbing, not through mountaineering, not through hypothermia, anything like that, but through aircraft crashes. Let's have a quick look at some of this wreckage. In memory of the crew of Canberra Whiskey Kilo 120, who died when they crashed here in December 1957. Flight Lieutenant Shelley, Flight Lieutenant Bell. Rest in peace. A sobering thought that an area that many of us come to relax, unwind, enjoy, have fun in, not only sometimes claims the lives of other people that are out unwinding and having fun and relaxing for whatever reason, but also those two aircrew over there, and no doubt, as I've said, countless aircrew over the years have also lost their lives here. Always worth bearing that in mind when you're in areas such as this, and offer a little bit of just a little bit of thought and a little bit of respect, I suppose, when you're in and around those known crash site areas. Earlier on in this video, I referenced a couple of videos. If you're interested in taking a closer look at them, then I'm linking to them up on the screen right now. Why not click through and take a closer look? If you're not yet a subscriber, you know what to do by now. I'll see you in my next video very shortly. Take care.